Welcome everyone to another Terry Talks Nutrition educational webinar. Our very special guest today is Dr. Holly Lucille. She is a nationally recognized licensed naturopathic doctor, educator, natural products consultant, and patient advocate. She is the author of several books, including Creating and Maintaining Balance, A Woman's Guide to Safe, Natural Hormone Health, and The Healing Power of Trauma Comfrey. Dr. Lucille is an acclaimed expert in the field of integrative medicine, and her media appearances include places like Dr. Oz, The Doctors, Lifetime Television for Women, PBS's Healing Quest, the Hallmark Channel, and Discovery Fit and Health Channel. Dr. Lucille believes in the science, art, and mystery of healing and has a heartfelt passion for the individual wellness of all people. Her private practice in Los Angeles, Healing from Within Healthcare, focuses on comprehensive naturopathic medicine and individualized care. So thank you very much, Dr. Lucille, and here she is.
Oh, thank you so much. All right, so Adrenal Answers, I hope and I know from what I've seen out there, you have the questions. So let's just dive in here and talk about the adrenal hormones, because I know that cortisol is pretty familiar to folks in our modern day. There's a couple big books out there like Adrenal Fatigue, the 21st Century Illness. But I want to really dive into this because there are other hormones too: epinephrine, norepinephrine, hydrocortisone, corticosterone, aldosterone, DHEA as well. You know, the endocrine system, the hormone system, is so intricate. It's absolutely 100%, I think, continuing to be amazing to me. It's one of the most, I think Deepak Chopra says it best: you touch one strand and the whole web trembles. All of this stuff is very connected. We've got these higher brain centers, the hypothalamus, the pituitary, and then we have our body, and we've got all this communication that happens. It's quite brilliant, and I think that we've simplified it in our modern day, and I want to get in there so I can give you answers to some of the questions that you have. So let's just talk about adrenals in general. We know them as our stress glands. They kind of are shaped like kidney beans. They're right on the top two poles of our two kidneys, and they really are the stress glands. I mean, I think that would be the best way to just summarize them. Our fight or flight stress response is exactly that. If we're in danger, whether that's real or perceived, this is what happens. Our adrenal glands get initiated and release cortisol to give the body an energy in crisis, like I said, and that could be perceived or real. Because what that whole entire process is doing is getting blood sugar out to our extremities so we could, quote unquote, run from a bear, okay? And I think sometimes in our modern day where we don't even have the luxury of being in danger anymore, we've just got to be balancing our checkbook or getting an email from our boss, or having unresolved emotional issues, or fighting with our children to clean up their room, or all these things where we're not really moving away from the danger or protecting our crops from the locusts. We're just sitting there, but being still in this fight or flight. And I think that is kind of contributing to some of the things that we're seeing regarding adrenal health in our modern day. But they also regulate metabolism, immune system, and blood pressure. So the number one factor, I would say, behind many of sort of scratching your head unanswerable health problems is adrenal insufficiency. And I think this is kind of a key point for me to understand and tell you that I know that adrenal fatigue, adrenal exhaustion, my adrenals are burnt out, are very common words that are used by lay people and actually even educated health practitioners. I have to say that I believe that if we look at the literature, your adrenals will never be exhausted or they'll never fatigue, but there is an over-adaptation. You know, our bodies are meant to adapt. They're meant to adapt to our situation, but it was supposed to be sort of, you know, few and far between, maybe once every 2 weeks, you know, to like, okay, here we go, primal brain, you know, get out of thriving and get into surviving. But in our modern day, of course, this happens all the time, and I think that what happens is there's a dysregulation through the hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal axis, and then therefore sometimes an insufficiency of cortisol if we've utilized it too much. And there's just, that is what we're experiencing. But you'll see if you go into a conventional practitioner's office, if you don't have Cushing's disease, which is way too much cortisol, or Addison's disease, which is not enough, it's almost like you're not even getting treated. I made a joke the other day when I was lecturing. I was like, it would kind of be like going into the ophthalmologist's office and like, as I'm aging, I'm not being able to see as well. And they would be saying, well, hey, you're not blind yet. And that's kind of the thing that I think about this. There is this continuum that I think still needs to be addressed. Cortisol reduction, the magic bullet for weight loss, I think we're going to have a big question about that. What I wanted to say, though, about these ads is that what happens is, let's say you are ready. Your body is ready, doesn't know any better, but it feels like you're running from a bear. And, there's been a lot of research lately on I would say it's early childhood adversities where people have sort of almost have this primitive brain where they're hypervigilant all the time. A lot more research on that where, you don't even have to be running from a bear or getting almost hit by a car, that your mere existence has kind of got you in that fight or flight thing. And that experience that happens where it really should be relegated just to get you out of danger. But in our modern day, I think these periods are compounded, and multiple. And so what happens is we're not running. We're not utilizing the energy that's getting to our peripheral tissues to run. We're not, and so it becomes stored, and it becomes stored as belly fat. And so, yeah, this makes sense. It does, but there's so much more to the story, let me tell you this. And here's what I was talking about, the HPA axis. That's hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal axis. So if you think about the hypothalamus and pituitary, think about them as the president and the CEO of your body. And then we've got the adrenal glands there, all this communication that's happening. And then this negative, you see the red lines there, this is a negative feedback loop. That's communication from our body. Like, hey, I need more of this. Please, 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 I'm in danger, or I'm upset, or I'm reacting to something, like real or perceived, okay? So this is what's going on in our body regarding, and I would almost stretch it if we want, and this could be a whole nother webinar, but I would say the hypothalamus, pituitary, thyroid, adrenal, gonadal, so you think about ovaries and testes, axis, because they're all sort of related, but let's just focus on the adrenals for right now. So one of the things that I am a big proponent of in our modern day, in my practice, in my family, and in everywhere that I go is a class of botanicals called adaptogens. One of them is ashwagandha. Now, adaptogens in general, they basically help us adapt, so because I mentioned this sort of over-adaptation phenomenon that happens. I experienced this last April where I literally was so over-adapted that my body was like, you know what, I don't have anything else left, and it let me know it. And it was a very uncomfortable time for me, and it was a very scary time for me. So this is something that is real, and it is really important to understand, but to help us adapt to the multiple stressors in our modern day, emotionally, physically, spiritually, psychosocially, ashwagandha is wonderful. So in the studies, it's been shown to reduce cortisol levels by almost 30%, which is great because if we, cortisol is wonderful. It has its job, but too much of it over a period of time almost creates this almost brain damage in a sense. Robert Sapolsky wrote a great book called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers, but there's a part of our brain called the hippocampus where too much cortisol over a period of time, it will start to kind of wear and tear on that. And we start getting things like disrupted circadian rhythm, disrupted moods, disrupted, that brain fog, I should say. And so a lot of times people will associate that with other things, but honestly, it could be our modern day stress. And so ashwagandha is wonderful for reducing cortisol over time. Cortisol also sets your circadian rhythm, so that sleep-wake cycle. And if you're not burning it off during the day with, let's say, if we had a more traditional relationship with our environment. We would get home or get done with the day, and then we'd go hunt and gather our food, right? Or, you know, carry water. And so we'd be burning off all of the stuff that kind of kept us alert and alive during the day, but we don't do that. So we end up with this thing called wired but tired. And so ashwagandha is wonderful for keeping that cortisol at bay so we can actually get to sleep at night. So also 77% reduction in depression score, 75% reduction in anxiety score, and 64% reduction in stress score in a clinical study of people with history of chronic stress. And they were on, these are stats that were extrapolated from studies regarding ashwagandha. This root also, believe it or not, has an influence on fertility, increased sperm concentration of 167%. I use it all the time when couples come in having a hard time either getting pregnant or holding on to a pregnancy, both for men and women, quite honestly. So really important. Also, the other adaptogen that I use quite a bit is Rhodiola. I call it, this herb, I call it my fuse lengthener. You know how when you feel you kind of have a short fuse where everything, you have a decrease in stress resistance? Well, Rhodiola is shown to boost energy during physical exertion, increases mental performance and concentration. So we've got physical, mental, emotional as far as relieving symptoms of anxiety, alleviates mild to moderate depression, improves physical fitness, and reduces mental fatigue. You know, for those of you who know me, I'm sort of like this hanging on ever CrossFit athlete. Even though I've tried to move on to teaching and coaching more, I still feel like I get seduced by the game and getting in there and being a little bit competitive. And so these are things that I rely on all the time to just make sure that, first of all, the physical exercise that I'm partaking in is not going to do more damage to my body than I want, and also that I just have this support. And Rhodiola, believe it or not, is shown to help regulate menstrual cycles and may help increase fertility as well. And it's known for its ability to increase libido. Those two, ashwagandha and Rhodiola, very, very, very effective adaptogens, overall helping us adapt to modern-day stressors. I mean, just extremely important. That is an answer. I think that is an answer for everybody when it comes to our modern day. I am living in it. You are living in it. I keep categorizing most of the health issues that I talk about as modern-day influences, and this just because of what I see in the research and it's what I see in my practice. And so I think I'm probably going to die during this modern day. I think things are going to get worse before they get better. I think we're getting better. I think we're starting to understand environmental toxins and their effects and sort of the fast pace that we live in and those effects as well. And we're doing better as we know better, but I think it's going to take a long time. And so protecting ourselves and having these adaptogens on board is something I feel is extremely important. So let's talk about adrenal gland extracts. They've been around for a long time, used medicinally really since the 1930s. And so these are made from animal adrenal glands, usually bovine, and so it's kind of nourishing the gland itself. Lots of research on adrenal glands, or adrenal glandulars, I should say. They're freeze-dried and powdered, and they're source of natural hormones and nutrients. So this is something that's so important in nourishing the adrenal glands. So you have the adaptogens, plant medicine on board for the fuse lengthener, as I said, but this also just helps you get out of kind of pounding on your adrenal glands, which is what we do. And the other thing, you know, that when I was lecturing actually the other day that I touched on is sometimes when we get adrenally, I would say, in the weeds, we start to cope in a way that makes things worse. We start to rely on caffeine during the morning, where we can sort of medicate our wake cycle, right, because we're kind of feeling foggy from not a great night's sleep. And then at the end of the day as well, we might hit the wine or a beer or something to settle us down, right? We're wired but tired and we just kind of went out of it. And so that sometimes makes things worse, especially the caffeine for the adrenal glands. And so that glandular is extremely important. Now, another thing that I think is really important for folks to understand, and Terry Lembrun has such a great product that covers all of this, because when you need more cortisol, your body is like, okay, survival first, reproduction second, or survival first, digestion second, or survival first, bone remodeling second. Your body will always, if you are in a surviving mode, that fight or flight all the time, it's going to make sure that you stay alive instead of participate in the long-term building projects like bone growth, like digestion, like fertility, quite honestly. And so there's this compensatory mechanism. Your body compensates. And pregnenolone has the ability to be metabolized in a way where it will support cortisol over supporting progesterone. Progesterone is a sex steroid hormone. So it will become a stress hormone. It's usurped, basically, by the fact that, hey, survival first, reproduction second. And I've come across this in my clinical practice all the time when women are thinking, why can't I get pregnant? Why can't I hold on to a pregnancy? Sometimes all I have to do is look at the amount of stress in their lives and see that their physiology of their body is sort of skewed to the more surviving mode than it is the thriving mode. So a little bit of pregnenolone on board, which is a building block of other hormones, because your first metabolic breakdown from cholesterol, which is the mother of all hormones, believe it or not, cholesterol, is pregnenolone. So it's really supporting upstream. And then DHEA is an adrenal hormone. We do know it as an androgen. It's a precursor to testosterone. But low DHEA levels are often found first, quite honestly, when somebody is going through adrenal over-adaptation dysregulation, way before cortisol levels. And so those two things being able to be supplemented, awesome when you're thinking about just dysregulated, I should say, over-adapted, overworked adrenals. Other key nutrients, B vitamins, very important to people experiencing stress, has been shown to reduce fatigue and anxiety while increasing ability to focus and concentrate. L-tyrosine is converted in the adrenal gland to a hormone which are important for alertness and mood. And then also vitamin C, can't say enough about it when it comes to adrenal health. One of the highest concentrations of vitamin C in the human body required for synthesis of the adrenal hormones is in the adrenal glands. And so I know vitamin C isn't like that sexy or anything like that, but people need to be on it in our modern day. And it's a water-soluble vitamin, and as well as, the vitamin Bs are. So make sure that you take it. You take it in higher doses, and you can take it over multiple times throughout the day, because once your receptor sites get filled up, you're going to pee the rest of it out, and you'll see it, and you'll think, oh, I'm wasting my money. So just take it in divided doses. All right, so also back to plant medicine. Particular adrenal support from an herbal perspective is licorice root. So, we talk about, hey, that communication. Brain, please tell my adrenal glands, kick out more cortisol because I need it for this, that, or the other reason. And too much cortisol, you're going to get over-adapted, and it's going to be depleted. And so what licorice root does is it's fascinating in the fact that it can increase the half-life of cortisol. So it allows it to be utilized in a more efficient and longer fashion in our body, and therefore it lasts longer in circulation, and you can let those adrenals rest. Rhamania is wonderful. It's a compound. It contains a compound called catapult, which stimulates production of adrenal hormones. And so overall, those two together, very important in the sort of synergistic process, along with a little bit of hormonal support and as well adrenal glandulars when it comes to a very comprehensive combination remedy to support adrenal health. Wow, that was answers in a short period of time. The rigors of medicine, the power of nature, the essence of care, it's certainly what you're going to find with these Terry Talks for sure. And as well, that's my website there. But a couple things just to recap. There's two different aspects that I feel are important when it comes to this whole question of adrenal fatigue, adrenal exhaustion. Can we supplement our lifestyles? Can we? And we can. And we can do that by getting the adaptogens on board. Those are extremely important because I've talked to so many people, and I know myself, I have a lot yet to do, I promise you that, and I know I'm not going to climb to the top of a mountain and be a Zen monk and have the rest and reparation that I probably should have, and so I want to supplement my lifestyle, and doing that means I get adaptogens on board, and I help my body adapt to the stressors, even if they're youth stresses, meaning good stresses that I'm going through, and then also targeted nutritional support, vitamin Bs, tyrosine, vitamin C, as well, the adrenal glandulars, and other botanical support in a combination ingredient that hits every single aspect of our adrenal communication with our brain, the support of the glands itself with the nutrients and the glandular, as well as the hormonal compensation that's happening. Wonderful for treatment. Wonderful if you know that you're in this space where you are exhausted and you know that your lifestyle has a lot to do with it and you're not going to be able to get out of it soon. So beautiful ingredients to just do the job, and hopefully I've given you some adrenal answers along the way. There you go.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lucille. That was some really powerful information. I definitely think that adrenal maladaptation is something that a wide majority of the population is dealing with, and thank you for going through the language. And I know there's some confusing information out there about, adrenal fatigue versus adrenal insufficiency, but I think you really laid it out well for the listeners, and some good ways that they can start to rebuild some of that adrenal strength and get people back into good health and vibrant living. So for more information, you can visit the terrytalksnutrition.com educational website. You can sign up to get a free weekly newsletter. We also have all of these webinar recordings available on the terrytalksnutrition.com website and also YouTube, Terry Talks Nutrition. So I want to thank Dr. Lucille for her wonderful presentation that she did today. And until we meet again, folks, good health to you. Bye-bye.